As the Money Burns is an original podcast by Nikki Woodard. Based on historical research, this is a deep exploration into what happened to a set of actual heirs and heiresses to some of America's most famous fortunes when the Great Depression hits. Each episode has 3 primary sections. Section 1 is a narrative story. Section 2 goes deeper into the historical facts. Section 3 focuses on contemporary, emotional, and personal connections. Story recap. As young debutantes gain attention for their season, struggling marriages of 2 divine brothers and the Hope Diamond owners fall apart. Now back to As the Money Burns. Pleasure Trip. The freedom of travel and adventure is cut short when one heiress is spotted and too much attention could threaten her safety. Section 1. Story. To be young, free, and rich should mean all the luxuries and travel in the world, only if it could be so easy. The pressures of being a rich debutante in the spotlight rarely affords one much privacy, and in these dark, lingering days of the Great Depression, safety means so many things. The alluring world of the rich are even more fantasized by those on the outside. Rumors of sleeping on satin sheets, eating on jewel-encrusted solid gold plates, and then relaxing in a sparkling bathroom with a scented fountain. A gilded cage of luxury from which an outsider might not understand the desire to escape. The lives of the rich are indeed not like the imagined fairy tale, and in other ways far more opulent and grand. Only a cage is a cage, and escape can be both desirable and inevitable, even if brief. Sunday, October 8th, 1933, Long Island, New York. At the Roosevelt Air Field, World War I ace Kenneth Unger performs several feats of crazy flying exhibition for the onlookers at today's charity event. Many are on the edge as he twirls and dives. During an airshow stunt last year, the plane broke apart mid-air as Ken parachutes to safety and applause. After another round of stunts, he goes back to an heiress and her older half-brother to discuss an upcoming transcontinental trip, the same route Ken took as a U.S. airmail pilot last in 1927. The vehicle of choice is the brothers' White Wasp-powered Blanca airplane, estimated worth $20,000. In 2025, that's $494,500. The heiress hopes this will be a more discreet and less obvious method than traveling in her easily identified custom railroad car which bears her name. Only recently, the yacht named after her sold to Harry Shipman to be docked in Miami for the summer. The siblings fear too much press and publicity, and she wants to safely enjoy her first Pacific Coast tour. Case in point, the papers quickly report on the heiress and her brother at that particular airshow talking with Ken, unaware of the plans being made. Friday, October 13th, 1933, New Jersey Airfield. Spotted between Long Island's Roosevelt Air Field and New Jersey's Hadley Field, Ken flies a white Blanca and fuels up before heading off to Minnesota. Thursday, October 19th, 1933, Chicago. Over the past couple of days, a graceful lady does much to obscure her appearance. But at nearly 6 feet tall, any female, or male for that matter, is likely to stand out. Luckily, the fervor and excitement of the World's Fair is a much larger focus of attention. This year's theme, A Century of Progress, is the same one with a magnificent jewel display with accompanying mine and village exhibitions. However, the tall lady's day of adventure ends when she returns to the Drake Hotel to find journalists eager to photograph her and ask questions. The lady is exposed as the heiress and therefore must be on the move again. Tuesday, October 24th, 1933, Salt Lake City, Utah. Arriving late in the night, the heiress and her brother hope to avert detection. At the Hotel Utah, the heiress checks in under the name of Miss G. Inman. For the evening, they join friends for dinner and are guests of City Commissioner Harry Finch, who is also the pilot Ken's father-in-law. Wednesday, October 25th, 1933. The morning starts off simple with a tour around the city. Only their attempt to travel without her two regular, heavily armed bodyguards does little to protect her privacy. With her presence again now known, they decide to promptly leave. Annoyed, the brother holds off the press from photographing or talking to his sister, insisting she is on a pleasure trip. She does not want to be interviewed or photographed. She's not interested. They board his Belanca plane with hints that they might head back to Renaud, but soon enough they arrive elsewhere. Friday, October 27th, 1933, San Francisco. Incognito yet again, the heiress somewhat successfully visits several palatial homes in the San Francisco Bay Peninsula area over the next few days. Saturday, October 28th, 1933. With excitement, the heiress moves about with her small entourage of two female companions along with her bodyguard and pilot. A bit daringly, they check into a fashionable downtown hotel. Lucky and unlucky, the hotel is overbooked for the weekend, so the heiress must stay in a sample room, which might inadvertently draw less attention than a more expensive suite. Much like Chicago's World's Fair, most of the people are more interested in today's California versus USC football game than trying to spot an heiress. Thus, the heiress gets to experience the thrill of passing anonymously in the stands. The cheering crowd, the close plays, the normalcy, and the fervor of a sporting event. So much of normal life. Then again, people still notice. Kinda hard not to when a rather tall lady is in the crowds. But still fairly safe. So the heiress spends the rest of the weekend socializing and almost carefree. But when she returns to the hotel, she gets signs once again. Mail starts to collect, and with each day, the bags get heavier. She avoids reading them, already well aware since she was 12 what the letters will likely say. Speaking of kidnapping fears, Tuesday, October 31st, 1933. Still in Paris, aviator Charles Lindbergh and his wife Anne Morrow Lindbergh are reported visiting City Hall and museums. Their daily mail intake is 100 letters at their hotel. Lindbergh himself tries to avoid detection by occasionally wearing a cap. The couple plan to travel to Holland next. Meanwhile, in Athens, Greece, Silver Fox and failed utilities magnate turned fugitive Sam Insull wins his case against extradition to the United States. The Greek court ruling denies the August 25, 1933 request by America regarding the return of Insull to face prosecution for charges related to the collapse of his energy empire. Back in San Francisco, despite all attempts to avoid detection, the young heiress has been outed yet again. Of course she's going to be outed. She is unmarried without a hint of engagement and about to turn 21. The much sought after richest girl in the world. Yes, indeed, the heiress on the move is the tall, no longer awkward, Doris Duke. Her entourage includes Mr. and Mrs. K. Russell and possibly another unidentified female, most likely to be her French governess, Jenny Renaud, if not a local friend. Newspaper reporters shout out questions. What about gangsters and racketeers? Her head bodyguard, Walker Patterson, fields the press questions. Everywhere we go, it's the same. She gets to see a few sights, goes out to dinner a few times, then her identity becomes known, and we have to rush off somewhere else. She just can't live a normal life, and now she's known here, and I suppose we'll have to avoid the cities on the Pacific coast and visit only smaller towns. We can't take any chances. When word gets out that she's in town, it's like telling the gangsters, "Here's lots of money. Come and get it." But that's not the worst of it. Cranks are the principal annoyance. Mail comes in by the bagful, and every crank in town wants to see her. Every imaginable plea for money comes by mail, to say nothing of the threats against her, because she is supposed to have so much money. While some might be enjoying Halloween festivities, Doris boards a plane annoyed that her well-laid plans have once again been foiled. Still, airport attendants indicate the plane has clearance papers for Renaud. So much for safety. By the next day, with more informed journalists, especially those like Nancy Randolph at the Daily News, reveal that the bodyguard, Walker Patterson, is actually Walker Patterson Inman, the older half-brother of Doris, the one who will not inherit a vast fortune, like his sister. Oh, and one of her aliases, remember, was Miss G. Inman? Protectively, Brother Walker continues to manage the press for his sister. We did want to see the Pacific coast, but since her identity has become known out here, I suppose we'll have to rush off somewhere else. When questioned if Miss Duke handles her own affairs, Walker asserts, Doris knows where every dollar of her money is and what it is doing. As for questions on suitors, Walker replies, no, not so much. The average eligible suitor doesn't want to appear to be a fortune hunter. Such a sad revelation, and the fate of the tall, no longer awkward heiress and richest girl in the world, Doris Duke. Her former bestie and next richest heiress, Princess Barbara Hutton Devani, has only recently married in June 1933, leaving Doris to be the most eligible bachelorette on the market, so to speak. Back in spring 1933, Barbara had met several potential and ardent suitors port to port as she nursed her broken heart and attempted to evade scandal. Doris does not inspire the same adulation, but one article does remark her previous dalliance with heir to two fortunes and handsome James H.R. Cromwell, a.k.a. Jimmy. As Doris remains untied to one particular suitor and rather adept at dodging unsuitable paramours, with her upcoming 21st birthday, the heart-free heiress wishes to remain anonymous and travel before coming into a portion of her fortune in a matter of weeks. Walker refuses to allow photos of her, as that would make her too easily identifiable. Yet the newspapers still print photos of Doris accompanying the tales and with reminders of her speculated potential fortune anywhere from $30 million, $53 million, or possibly even $83 million. That could be $741.8 million or $1.3 billion or a little over $2 billion in 2025. Mind you, their socially ambitious mother, Nanaline Duke, desperately downplays the fortune. But none of the lesser sums seem like a deterrent. The recent Supreme Court tax case exposed part of the amount, though Doris will receive her fortune in parts over the decades to come. Also revealed, and not revealed, are their traveling companions, Mr. and Mrs. K. Russell. Could that be another alias or pseudonym? Doris, with her brother in tow, departs for another unknown place. Walker admits she will likely have to visit smaller places and stay away from the busier, larger cities. If only so easy. Oh yes. Guess where Doris is spotted next? Saturday, November 4th, 1933, Hollywood, California. If one might have wanted to be discreet and anonymous and away from beggars, Hollywood would unlikely be the place to go. However, once again, more reports track her whereabouts as Doris mingles at several parties, including one by Gloria Swanson and another with Marlene Dietrich. Sunday, November 5th, 1933. If one prefers to avoid press, staying away from Hollywood and stars might be advisable. But oh well, maybe Doris will learn some tips for better disguises or learn to, love the spotlight. At MGM, Doris has tea with Marion Davies, the mistress of William Randolph Hearst and sister of Rose Douras Davies, who too is the mistress of former Washington Post owner, now mental asylum inmate, Edward McLean. Only time is limited, so Doris hurries off to the next meeting at a different studio. At Paramount, the strict rule of no visitors on the Josef von Sternberg's closed set is changed for Doris, who has daringly accepted the invitation by the film star Marlene Dietrich. Doris and Marlene visit for 2 hours, then Doris takes a break and visits the nearby set of director Cecile B. DeMille. Disappointed over her earlier brief tea, Doris requests a return to Marlene. The ladies discuss Sable and the working conditions on a hot 85-degree set, while pretending to be in a Russian winter snow scene. Marlene is portraying Catherine the Great in the title role of the Scarlet Empress, which will have a 1934 release. Oh, Doris will be spotted and photographed having lunch at the studio commissary. Monday, November 6, 1933. At the Embassy Club, a fight breaks out between New Yorker cartoonist Peter Arno with Drexel Biddle Steele, an actor and Philadelphian blue blood. While Arno plays on the piano, Steele passes a table and flirtatiously acknowledges Arno's companion and actress, Sally O'Neill. Enraged, Arno then confronts Steele and words turn into fists until Steele knocks Arno down with a chair. The press remarks onlookers include Doris Duke, Clark Gable, Joan Crawford, and others. The press also reminds everyone that Arno previously had a similar scuffle 2 years earlier with newspaper man and heir Cornelius Vanderbilt IV, a.k.a. Neil, who refused to comment on this incident. Saturday, November 11, 1933. The white monoplane Blanca makes its way back towards Hadley Field, where Doris and Walker will safely return along with companions Ken Unger and his wife. Oh, seems that the unidentified Mr. and Mrs. K. Russell are likely Mr. and Mrs. Kenneth Russell Unger. Later in the month, back at Hadley Field, Ken will perform more aerial feats and is ready to instruct his next set of students coming his way. Still exhilarated by the trip, Ken talks to the press over his recent completion of the 8,000-mile transcontinental round trip, following his old U.S. airmail route. As for Doris, with a birthday and a fortune on the horizon, she will have plenty more cadgers, cranks, crooks, and beggars in her future. Section 2, History and Historiography. This podcast has involved much digging as I focus to reconstruct an era and piece together long-forgotten stories. For every episode, I dive back into details trying to solidify the facts in hopes of fleshing out the story. I started with various biographies for the outlines, then search out contemporary news articles to get into more specifics and correct any timeline issues. It has been quite a journey which has become ever more complicated as the press popularity of our subjects has exploded. Thus, lo and behold, back in February this year, 2025, I discover a doozy of a story. Actually, it might be considered a minor blip within a large-scale story of a person's life. But this story perfectly illustrates and pinpoints a condition that plagued Doris Duke throughout her own life. But now, with this uncovered detail making it even more concrete. Doris has 5 biographies so far written about her, a handful of small films, a miniseries, and countless documentaries. Her large-scale wealth, along with several scandals, makes her a person worth revisiting over and over again. Ditto with Barbara Hutton. Within all those works above, there is mention of how Doris struggles to travel or go anywhere because she only gets a few days before being discovered, then hounded. The comment relaying this situation is made by her older half-brother, Walker Inman. A sweet understanding and compassionate take on his sister's troubles in trying to live a somewhat normal life in extreme circumstances. The quote is oft repeated, but never once had I seen it documented as to when. The truth is that would seem unnecessary, as it was a problem that plagued her her whole life. But what if I could point out the origin for that quote? Indeed, I think I have discovered the first time that quote appears and the circumstances for when it got a lot of press then and there, as well as forevermore. As I regularly scour our subjects to tell these stories, I take certain chronological periods in tow. Thus, when I was going over the story on Doris's tax case and her sudden tonsillitis tale, I discovered the quote by Walker in late October 1933 in regards to her travels in San Francisco. As I got to the time to tell the story, I discover more events surrounding her series of travels with the constant discovery of her presence. The more generic reference is given in her biographies has not been illustrated or concretized to this extent. This is where I feel like I'm adding to a well-known story. You see, I struggle in telling a story as it has been covered. It's a rebellious streak that struck me hard in my teens while making history fair documentaries. I always have the need to make something my own, and the footnotes have always pointed out as to where I might want to flesh things out. I am into the anecdotal and the crossover elements in a story. I know I get a bit bogged down in lots of details, but I hope that you as a listener enjoy them as much as I do. Such as I look up every name. I almost got thwarted with K. Russell. The initial was no good, and no other part of the names are given in other articles. But when I searched for more details on pilot Ken Unger, as enlisted in Wikipedia as Kenneth Russell Unger, could I make the connection? By the way, Unger is a decorated World War I and future World War II pilot. In between the wars, serves as an airmail pilot like Lindbergh, as well as an instructor who prefers the more risk-taking students and an aerial derby participant. In 1932, his plane broke apart during one air show and he parachuted to safety. It's interesting how when stitching these stories back together, other elements and people crop back up. The New Yorker cartoonist Peter Arno has another spat, but there are references back to Neil Vanderbilt. Another connection? Marion Davies. Then there is again mention of the Chicago's World's Fair. The parallel to Barbara Hutton's highly publicized trip with the press and suitors in pursuit, and others who in the past and near future will attempt to evade or gain press during their travels. Those all give us a sense back into a world where we move about familiar faces, revisit same locations, and have a deeper sense of both the randomness and the interconnection of lives. There are also adjoining stories in columns like the Lindberghs keep popping up, references to Hitler. Even the kissless bride Janet Snowden appears in columns along with Doris talking about the kidnapping fears for heiresses. Seriously, I only found Janet's story in relation to searching out her sister who married another ardent Barbara suitor, Italian Prince Girolamo Jerome Rospigliosi, then learned of Janet's quickie marriage and kidnapping fiasco. And now she keeps showing up on her own everywhere. Little seedlings planted long ago are now popping up throughout. Our garden is becoming more intricate, ornate, and beautiful. Section 3. Contemporary and Personal Relevance. I have been working on these stories for quite a while. As it is taking me some time to complete my series, the subject matter pops up in other forms. Every couple of years, there seems to be a new crop focused on the same topics. And recently, I found a few more YouTube documentaries covering our two main heiresses, Barbara Hutton and Doris Duke. These stories are fabulous no matter how they are told. I believe they are enjoyable, and I am grateful others too find them interesting. One of my favorites, Ty's Hot Mess History, has ventured into telling about both Barbara Hutton and Doris Duke. And Ty also visits the feud between the two in another dedicated deep dive. I will link both episodes in the notes and transcript. I love Ty's turn of phrases and humor in pointing out the dirty tidbits. She has also done well on subjects relating to Madeline Astor, her son Jakey, John Jacob Astor VI, and other Titanic stories, which I have previously mentioned. I have also discovered a new source of delicious documentaries on YouTube, India Scarlet. She too has a way of turning a phrase, an eye for exquisite details, and segues when needed to give extra information on those who cross the story. I first discovered her in relation to another documentary I will mention in an upcoming episode. As India covers subjects like Valentina's ex, Natasha Rambova, and many others of a distant era, there are certainly many treats to uncover. Feuding Heiresses covers the parallels between Barbara and Doris from birth to death. Links in the notes and transcript. I know. It seems odd that I might tell you of competing stories, but one cannot control history, especially of public figures. The above creators are great in both narrative and with the visual component my story lacks, as I have already previously explained why I hesitate for my purposes. I know, it's sort of like giving away spoilers in some way, but the truth is those who wish to know can readily find them already, and it will take some time for me to wrap up my story because I'm not rushing for what I will tell, reveal, and connect. I know it'll take me another 2.5 to 3 years to finish if I tell this tale correctly, as I have a very microscopic take on a very particular time in their lives. Knowing the whole tale might help further interest in the specifics and or will likely be forgotten when my revelations appear. Plus, I have spent over a decade researching and developing my tales, and I have found a few long forgotten, buried, and possibly hardly known details that will surface in time. In the meantime, we can enjoy whichever story appears along our path. I welcome and applaud those like-minded and willing to do the work it takes to put anything together in whatever format they so deem. Both ladies can tell a story with flair and detail, and they are definitely worth watching on any subject you might have further interest in. Our heirs and heiresses have plenty more story to go for tales involving love and fortune. As noted above, I will provide links in the notes and transcript for the episodes covering Doris Duke and Barbara Hutton from Ty's Hot Mess History and India Scarlet's YouTube channels. If you enjoy As the Money Burns, then please share, like, and subscribe. Next, when we return to As the Money Burns, it's time for another tuxedo ball with plenty of beauties. So has this year's most eligible bachelor finally found his future wife among them? Until then, As the Money Burns is an original podcast written, produced, and voiced by Nikki Woodard based on historical research. Archival music has been provided by Past Perfect Vintage Music. Check out their website at www.pastperfect.com. Please come visit us at As the Money Burns via Good Pods X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, now Meta, or Instagram. Transcripts, timeline, episode guide, and character bios are available at asthemoneyburns.com.